If you've been starving for a proper Friday the 13th fix since 2009's reboot, Sweet Revenge is like that first breath after being held underwater way too long. Fitting, since the short film literally plays with that imagery. Mike P. Nelson, the guy behind the Wrong Turn remake and the upcoming Silent Night, Deadly Night reboot, has brought Jason Voorhees back in a short, bloody burst that's got fans buzzing. But here's the thing, this isn't just Jason slashes a bunch of people for 13 minutes and leaves. This one plants some very intriguing seeds for where the Friday the 13th universe might go next, and the ending? Oh, it's loaded with hints. Welcome back to your nerdy show. I'm your host, Spoiler Master. Let's dive in, no pun intended, because there's a lot to unpack here.
Because you're a force of nature, and you didn't run away.
The setup. Not your average Camp Crystal Lake story. Right from the start, Sweet Revenge feels different. Sure, we've got the familiar Crystal Lake vibes, the woods, the water, the sense that death is always a step behind you. But this story centers on Eve. She's not a scared teenager stumbling into Jason's territory. She's called a force of nature in the dialogue. And people talk about her like she's got this unshakable will. Early on, she takes a bite of an apple. Small detail, right? But this isn't random. Nelson peppers the short with subtle clues that only really click on a rewatch. There's a reason that apple matters. It's a nod to Angry Orchard, the sponsor, but it also serves as a thematic trigger for Eve's transformation. Think of it like her poison apple moment, something that sets the chain of events in motion. The drowning parallel. One of the big theories, and Nelson basically confirmed this in interviews, is that Eve's journey mirrors Jason's own origin. She's underwater for a long time before resurfacing. That's not just a dramatic beat. It's a symbolic rebirth. In the Friday the 13th lore, Jason's drowning is this murky, debated event. Did he really drown as a kid? Did something supernatural bring him back? Nelson's take is that Jason did drown, but came back fueled by vengeance. And Eve? She's going through a very similar metamorphosis. By the time she emerges, she's already on the path to becoming something else. She's wounded, fatally by all normal logic. She literally gets impaled by a machete. No human walks away from that unless something supernatural's in play. So when she keeps moving, that's our first real clue that she's crossed the threshold into Jason-like territory. The Aftermath Tour. Here's where Nelson does something smart. He doesn't just throw Eve directly into a fight with Jason. Instead, she stumbles across the results of his work. Classic Friday the 13th fans will catch the homage. Many kills in the early films happen off-screen, and the survivors stumble across the aftermath. It's often creepier than the kill itself. Eve walks through these grisly crime scenes, silent cabins, lifeless bodies, and it builds this slow burn tension. You know Jason's nearby, but you don't know when he'll finally show up. It's a bit like Nelson teasing us. I know you came here for Jason, but let's make you earn it. The big reveal. Jason in full force. And then, bam, Jason finally steps into frame, and it's like the old days but cranked for modern horror fans. Skylar White's portrayal is worth talking about. This isn't a bodybuilder Jason, nor is it some supernatural tank on steroids. He's 6'5", physically imposing, but still human enough to be unsettling. You believe this is a man who lived, died, and came back wrong. The cabin sequence is pure slaughterfest, old school creativity with a modern gore edge. There's even a boat motor kill that feels straight out of the 80s, but filmed with today's brutality standards. Nelson keeps some kills partially obscured, cutting away at just the right moment, but still delivers enough splatter to satisfy gorehounds. It's that perfect balance between the implied horror of the classics and the explicit brutality of newer slashers like In a Violent Nature.
The ending, a bond of blood? Here's where it gets really interesting. Eve and Jason face off, but not in the usual final girl versus slasher way. There's this pause, almost like recognition. Nelson has hinted at a possible kinship between the two. Jason might see something of himself in Eve, someone who's died, come back, and now exists outside normal human rules. That ambiguity is delicious. Does Jason want to kill her out of instinct? Or is he thinking, you're like me, maybe we're on the same side? Could they even end up as reluctant allies? Nelson even joked about the idea of Jason just following her around, stalking, not because he wants her dead, but because he doesn't know what else to do with this connection. The short leaves this unanswered. All we really know is that Eve's not your typical victim. She's changed. She's survived the unsurvivable, and Jason's noticed.
The title's double meaning. The choice to call it Sweet Revenge without using Jason or Friday the 13th in the title wasn't just a branding decision. It actually fits the story. Jason's entire existence is about revenge for his supposed drowning. Eve's rebirth sets her on her own revenge path. The title applies to both of them. And the sweet part ties back to the apple motif. It works as a standalone, but for franchise fans, it's also a sly nod to the mythology.
Fresh pick.
Sure. Thanks.
Apple imagery and Angry Orchard integration. Let's talk about product placement, because this could have been cringe. Instead of just having teens chug Angry Orchard before Jason shows up, Nelson worked it into the DNA of the short. The orchard owner character, Eve's bite of the apple, and even a gruesome apple slicer kill. It's all integrated in a way that feels part of the story. The apple becomes a recurring symbol, temptation, transformation, and violence.
No, where are you going?
To get some help!
Homage without being a nostalgia trap. One of the strengths of Sweet Revenge is how it honors the original films without becoming an 80s cosplay project. The wardrobe choices reference characters from the first movie, Annie's shoes, Dana's striped shirt and denim, but the setting is clearly modern. The camera work, lighting, and score by Matt Compton and Michelangelo Rodriguez all capture that old-school slasher mood without feeling like a parody. There's even a shot of Jason leaping out of the water, a direct visual callback to the first film's ending. But here it's more of a love letter than a rehash. The new Jason, why it works. Casting Skylar White was a smart move. As a stunt performer with 16 world records for body burns, he brings an authenticity to Jason's physicality. He can do the stunts himself, work directly with other stunt actors, and make Jason feel dangerous in a way that isn't just about size. This Jason feels like he could be a real man, which makes his survival and power even more unsettling. What a feature film could look like. Nelson's already got ideas for a full-length expansion. And honestly, the short feels like a proof of concept for exactly that. Imagine a story where Jason meets someone like him. Not Freddy, not a psychic, but another resurrected killer. The dynamic could shift the whole franchise. Does Eve try to escape him? Does Jason try to recruit her? Do they end up competing in some twisted kill spree? It could take the mythology in a direction that's fresh without breaking what fans love. The key is that Eve isn't just final girl number 217. She's already crossed into something supernatural, so she can't go back to normal life. That puts her in Jason's world permanently, whether she likes it or not. Balancing old and new gore. The gore level here is worth mentioning because it's a deliberate tonal choice. Nelson matches the intensity of modern indie slashers, but keeps the restraint of the originals when it matters. You'll see brutal, bloody moments, but you'll also get those clever cutaways that let your imagination fill in the blanks. That's the sweet spot for keeping Friday the 13th's identity intact, while still satisfying 2025 horror audiences. Our nerdy thoughts. Sweet Revenge might be short, but it's packed with potential. It reintroduces Jason in a way that respects the past while setting up something new. Eve is the wild card. She's not here to be another notch on Jason's machete. She's a mirror, a question mark, maybe even a partner in carnage. And that final beat between them? It's less about a fight and more about a dangerous recognition. If Horror Inc. and Jason Universe decide to expand this into a feature, there's a blueprint here for something that could genuinely shake up the slasher formula without losing the franchise's soul. Until then, Sweet Revenge stands as a bloody little appetizer, a taste of what might be coming next at Crystal Lake.
What the heck, I'll laugh anyway.